Welcome to Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, where we hear real stories from real people and we tackle all sorts of fun topics in the areas of business, marketing, entrepreneurship, mindset, the arts, and, well, life itself. It's amazing what you will pick up. Thanks for joining us. Well, welcome back, everyone. I'm Darren Saul, your host of Playing with Perspective, the suspended animation podcast, episode 189. It's a fantastic Wednesday, and I have a great show for you today. Martina Rios is in the house. How you doing, Martina?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for joining me.
It's good to be here.
Can't wait. And today, for everyone out there, we're going to be talking about why just taking more action is not enough to initiate real change in your life. So that's an intriguing subject, so I can't wait to get into that. But before we do, I just want to give everybody a bit of a snapshot into who Martina is. So Martina is from Master Your Mind Coaching. She's a purpose-driven transformational coach, mindset shifter, and women empowerment mentor. She guides her clients on how to reconnect with themselves, defining their best new self while building clarity and confidence to live a fulfilling and authentic life. So welcome to the show again, Martina.
Thank you for having me.
So Martina, tell us a bit more about, why you do what you do. How did you get into this field? Life transformation is such a big sounding theme. I want to kind of break that down a bit for everybody today as well. Everybody thinks, oh my God, life transformation. Whoa,
yeah.
Tell us a bit more about, how you got into this and why you love it so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal life transformation started quite a few years back when I was still living in Sydney and I was working in corporate, in high performance driven sales and business development jobs, which I totally enjoyed at the time. It was also financially rewarding, but there did come a point in time where I had a massive wake-up call, and it came a little bit with burnout, and it started also affecting my mental health. So I had to make a decision because I realized if I kept going, it just wasn't sustainable for my well-being. And so I took a bit of time off for myself to go inwards, and I started a holistic healing process, and that took me also on a personal development journey. And from there on, over time, I ended up with lots of life coaching certifications, and even then went back to uni studying psychological science and counseling.
Okay. Wow.
And so I'm very intrigued by the human mind and human behavior.
Me too.
But I also absolutely had, a bit of a spiritual awakening. And so I got to experience the whole multidimensional being, which I guess is the segue for transformation, because when we transform on all levels. And I guess the main takeaway was really to understand or learn how powerful we are as human beings when we look beyond just the physicality. And so that sort of become my mission in my business, to help people to get to know themselves better and also understand that they are a lot more powerful than what they think they are.
Absolutely. Indeed. I mean, it's infinite, the power we have. We just have to find out how we can access it and express it. I mean, and it's crazy. I mean, what human beings are capable of is quite phenomenal. But were you always spiritual? Were you always that way inclined, or not really?
No. I mean, not in that sense, but it was just the curtain lifted, and once you take the red pill, you can't go back.
I love it. So true. I mean, I grew up reading a lot about spirituality. I used to read people like Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, and so many others. And I've read so many great books and listened to audiobooks along the way that talk about a lot of this theory. But it's interesting how we can all get sucked into the whirlwind of today, of the world, and we just all that stuff can just go out the door.
Yeah, and unless you really prioritize it and
Yep.
integrate it into your everyday life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about life transformation, because that's
Yeah,
your thing,
yeah,
and your speciality. But
yeah,
maybe define for us what that actually means. Life
yeah,
transformation.
yeah,
Why is it so important? Who's going to benefit? Is it for
yeah.
everybody? Let's kind of break that down a bit before we get into it.
Yeah, sure. So, transformation life coaching or life transformation is really about you becoming your best self, like upgrading to your 2.0 version. And because to do that, you have to change some belief systems. And that's why the work really starts on the identity level, because you're going to have to shift some old ways of thinking. So it's a paradigm shift as well. And this is why transformation is sort of happens from inside out. Um, so you might also see collectively we are, shifting a bit of the paradigms of how we used to think to new ways of thinking. And so I think it's a great time to kind of, use this time, especially even after COVID, when a lot of people had time to reflect and look for a bit more purpose and meaning in their life. So it is actually for everyone who must be ready to commit to themselves, wanting to do the work, but for everyone who would like to rediscover who they really are under the conditioning of expectations, and also living in more alignment with your authenticity, and understanding where real fulfillments and joy and happiness comes from, which is not from the external world, but obviously this is all part of the process. So really it is a rediscovery journey to yourself.
I love that. And, you're so right. Like over the last 2-3 years, we've all had to really take a journey inward and question and put things into perspective. And there's a lot more content, a lot more talk around there, a lot more discussion around being authentic, about doing things according to your why, living on your purpose, and trying to find perspective. It's not just about work, money, 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 money. Find a balance, and that's basically what I'm assuming that's kind of what you're talking about.
Absolutely, because many people chase the wrong goals and then they burn out, and then they it's all connected. Your physical health is connected also to your emotional and to your mental health, and so you do kind of need to look after yourself to all aspects.
And the pace of the modern world is just getting faster and faster and faster. Technology is becoming more and more advanced. Because of it, we're doing more and more. We're trying to fit more in every day. And it's almost like we're just running 24/7. We're in a fight or flight 24/7. And, we all need to take a step back every now and again and put things into balance.
Absolutely, and become more present, because we can't start chasing something in the future. And so meditation is taking up quite a bit, and also in psychology, it's been really now integrated in the therapies. So we're tapping back into that ancient knowledge that's always been there, and it's good because we need to just become a bit more present and still. Otherwise, our brains just go in overdrive.
I love it. I love it. So, I'd love to get into the topic of today, because I love this phrase that you kind of put together. Why just taking more action is not enough to initiate real change in your life. So that's kind of a bit of a counterintuitive statement, bit of a paradox. So let's talk about that.
Well, great. So I'm glad it obviously caught your attention, because action is really sort of the last step in the process. Because if you're taking action of who you are right now, and most likely you're then still defining yourself by stories from the past, you're not really going to initiate real change.
All right, good point.
So what you got to do is to really understand who you want to be, and then what that person looks like and how that person behaves. And then from there on, you're starting taking actions based on that future self vision. See, I'm also a life story coach. And so we tell ourselves stories all the time, right? In every moment. And we tell our life story of, we define ourselves by our life story of past experiences and memories. And sometimes we speed them up a bit, but then they become our beliefs. So a simple example is like, if you were always told, maybe by your teacher or parent or your friends, that you're not good at something,
Yep.
you start believing you're not good at this.
Yep.
But that's actually not really true, right? Then it becomes your excuse also not to do certain things. And this is why if you keep taking action, you're from that point, then you can't really initiate real change, because really you're just repeating your own behavioral patterns. So it is about changing the way you're actually thinking first about yourself.
I absolutely love that. I think, like I've heard that many times, you can't get to the next phase doing everything you did to get you to where you are today. You have to have new set of way of thinking, new set of skills, new a new network possibly. There's so many more things that you need to get you to the next step. And your mindset is the beginning of all that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually, there's a principle called be, do, have. Have you heard of that before?
I have, briefly. But yeah, please explain for everybody.
So I think Steve Covey came up with this, introduced it, and it's also aligned with NLP principles. So it is really about becoming first who you want to be. And this is, again, it's through your belief systems, through your actions, because once you're actually taking actions on that future self, you then actually start also behaving in that way and rewiring that way. So it's probably quite often used in the coaching world as well, and in personal development, but also by actually start thinking the way someone would think that you want to be, you're, I guess, energetically start tapping more into that feeling, right? So another really simple example is, let's say you're starting a business and your goal is to run a $1 million turnover business. So you really have to define what that person would look, how that person would look like, how that person would behave, what lifestyle they would have, what would their daily routines be, what would be their thought process, and then work from there.
Yeah, I love that. It kind of reminds me of a great quote that I've always remembered. It's a quote by a guy called Dr. Paul Homily. I don't even know who he is, but the quote is, make every decision based on the person you would like to become.
Yeah.
And I think, wow, I just love that quote. It's just really makes you think.
Yeah. And it's powerful. It works. You know, this is nothing new. This has been around for a while. This knowledge.
It's kind of saying, don't just react and click into the same old mental patterns and behavioral patterns that you've always executed and that you're used to. Think about exactly where you want to go and maybe change the way you do things.
Yeah.
Which is
kind of starts with self-awareness. Yeah.
Yeah, which is not that easy to do. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing, you know. So when you say don't take action, it doesn't mean don't take action ultimately. It means, first of all, stop, strategize, reflect, design your future self, and then take action to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's almost like taking 2 steps inwards first before you take the step outwards. And I'm not saying don't take action. I just say, if you're just taking action based on who you are right now, you're just going to be looped into the same sort of repeated pattern and habits.
That's right. And I think all the science nowadays has shown that you can reestablish and regenerate new neural pathways. So it means you don't have to do everything you always did, because that's all you can do. That's all your brain knows. It's not the fact. You know, I think that it's been proven that brain has a lot of neuroelasticity.
Yes.
And you can redesign your brain and your mental thoughts and your mental pathways however you like. Not as easy said than done, but it can be done.
Absolutely. I'm actually reading a book right now, which is The Brain That Changes It Itself. And it's all about, neuroplasticity. And it's really, really fascinating. And again, it's just great to learn more about yourself, because you understand then that by learning more how your mind works, you do understand that you're more powerful. And obviously the whole the way we learn, obviously this is how we hardwire certain ways of thinking, but we can rewire ourselves. It gets a little bit more difficult the older we get, but this is where the saying comes: practice makes the master, right? Neurons that wire together fire together.
I love it. Neurons that wire together, fire together. That's cool.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah. There's even electrical charges that happen when you're thinking. That's what they have seen. Pretty cool.
So let's chat about how to go about this. Maybe can you give us some, strategies and tips and tricks that might be able to help people start to create real change?
Yes. So of course, from what we were just talking about, when you start set your goals based on understanding why you want something, but really go deeper. And most likely the reason you want something is something else than it's just on the surface. So understand the real feeling and bigger picture behind it. Yeah. And because the motivation needs to come from, be an intrinsic motivator, most likely to make it actually effective, because it's shown that purpose-driven motivation is the most effective. So get clear on what you want and why you want it, and then
let's kind of stop there. And so, how do people do that?
Yeah, look, it's actually quite simple. Take a piece of paper and, for example, look, if you're not quite clear what you want, maybe start with what you don't want, and then define a few things. You can also define different areas in your life and write different ideas into each area, and from there just redefining, go over it again, and keep asking yourself. And it doesn't have to happen just in one session, because often when we ask a question and then we take a walk or a shower is when the answers come and drop.
That's
and
when
so
our subconscious mind is open.
So, let's the ideas come to you and the answers come to you. And I guess the why is just keep asking your why, so
don't stop after the first answer. Go why. Why it's like a child. Why, and then you might, after the fifth or sixth one, you might get to the real reason that's driving you to do things.
And so it is better then, because then that connects you to actually setting more intentions rather than just meaningless goals. And, for example, when someone just has a goal like, I want to lose 10 kilos because I should, and let's go to the gym next week 3 times or 5 times, and they fail the first day, right. So the process there is really to understand, well, why do you want to lose actually weight? And how will it actually impact your life? And how will it impact your environment? And is it because you want to be more energetic, because you want to show up as a better partner, or
you want to feel
parent,
more
or better entrepreneur, or so really understand. And then also visualize the process of you doing it, because again, science has shown it's actually more effective to visualize yourself doing the steps, not just the outcome, which is quite interesting. And so take small steps towards those goals, and celebrate also milestones, and be able to reward yourself.
Okay, so in other words, at the beginning, stop, sit, really have a think about why you're doing whatever you're doing in many different parts of your life, and then start maybe designing small incremental steps to get you closer to where you want to go.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's, again, if you're just talking about the gym thing, if you're going to bed in the evening and your goal is to get up in the morning, again, before you go to bed, make a pact with yourself. why am I getting up in the morning, and what is going to be my hurdles? How do I overcome those hurdles? But why is it important? And am I just going to remind myself, why is it important? It's really like a muscle. You keep practicing that, it becomes just natural.
Yeah, so true.
Yes, it's like learning to overcome yourself a bit as well. But if you have a big enough reason, you will.
And I love that. And I think you're right. Like, you can kind of also hack into your own behavior a little while you're on the journey to kind of trick yourself into continuing to form that habit. So let's say with the example of the gym, if you go to bed and before you go to bed, if you pack your bag, your gym bag, put it next to the door, kind of like committing you to saying you're going to get up when the alarm bell rings. You're not just going to press snooze and sleep for another hour.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're kind of tricking yourself into doing what you have to do to get you where you want to go.
Yeah. And again, visualize yourself getting up in the morning when the alarm goes off.
And after 5 or 6 times or 2 weeks, you'll actually look forward to it. You'll enjoy it.
You'll be fine.
I love it.
Yeah. So I guess that would be the first thing. And then one of the big, I guess, main messages for me as a person, and also it's just as important that people start taking responsibility, right? Take responsibility for your life. Stop blaming the external world, stop blaming other people. It starts with you and it stops with you. So we really cannot control what's going to happen. If the traffic's going to be bad, if the weather's going to be bad, if someone's going to be angry at us, but we can control how we respond. And this is where the empowerment piece comes into, right? Because we have a choice every day to decide how we want to feel and how we want to think and how we want to respond. And this is really, really important to actually understand.
So true. I mean, it's everything. You know, if you can just even cultivate that self-awareness to, critique your thoughts and actions for a second or two before you execute, it'll already change your whole behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. And if something goes wrong, just have a think, what could I have done better, right?
Yeah, exactly. And don't beat yourself up too much. All right, you made a mistake, you tried, all right, let's do better.
Yeah. It is a big self-awareness piece. But again, the more you actually start practicing that, the more it will just happen automatically. And it's actually a really liberating feeling when you can stand more in your power and you are not so reactive. And because reactiveness also triggers stress. And so the less you can go through the day being reactive and feeling stressed, the healthier and happier you will be too.
And I think you brought up a really good point in that, when we said, don't beat yourself up, I think it's really important for people to always critique everything that happens. A lot of people don't take the time to reflect on what happens and try and work out, why did that happen? How can I do better next time?
Yeah.
Even just that little step can already change your behavior.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you got to take the time, and you got to want to sit there and think, okay, if I did it this way, what would have been the outcome? Was that the best way to do something, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I caught myself a few times in the car getting road rage, and I stopped it, of course, because I'm like, it's your fault that you're late. Come on, you could have just left the house earlier. We're in Sydney traffic here. What do you expect?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
but you can really practice it with those simple things, and then it is like, again, building a muscle and going to the gym. You'll just become better and better at it, and then you'll be able to do that going to work or responding to situations and other people too.
Yeah. And what's your take on meditation? Do you meditate every day?
I do almost every day, but it was a massive piece for my healing journey. And look, I mean, everyone can meditate, but it's really the best to just start with anything that's mindfulness practice, right? Really what it is about is to get out of your head and create stillness. And I love meditation also. I mean, it is an absolutely great de-stressor. But it's also actually shown to help with pain relief, with anxiety.
Oh, yeah.
And it has also, and for me, also from a spiritual aspect, it is a direct way to connecting to my higher self and to download higher intelligence.
I like the sound of that. I want to download some higher intelligence stuff.
Well, because you're really within that stillness, that's where you're actually connecting to those sources. And so I love meditation. I get up very early and go to the gym in the morning. That's my sort of morning routine. So I meditate a little bit later because I'm too high energetic after the gym. So
and you don't want to kind of meditate before you go to the gym because you won't want to go to the gym.
When you get up between 5:30, it's harder to get up even earlier.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. Like I used to get up. I used to be a classic night owl.
Yeah.
And now the last 3-4 years, I've totally changed my routine, and I get up at 5:30, and I absolutely love it. And like it's an example of a pattern that I've changed for myself.
Yeah.
There are many more that I need to change, but that's one that I've changed, and it's been the most amazing thing. And I don't think I'll ever go back to the old way. I've totally changed that neural pathway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know from people I've worked with that have kids, for them, this is the early morning hours, really the only time they can invest a bit of time to themselves, because obviously by the time the kids are in bed, it's usually you're a little bit out of energy as well.
Absolutely. Everybody's got to find that bit of me time. And I like to get up in the morning, listen to some podcasts, listen to some audiobooks, just catch up on all that stuff and reflect a little. And
morning routines are really important. I mean, when you wake up like a blank canvas, and I love the analogy of it's up to you what you're going to paint that day. And again, really important to not just step straight into your autopilot of what happened yesterday, what's next appointment to rush, pick up your phone and read the emails. I mean, that first 20 minutes, really try to, put a bit more intention to how you want to experience the day, how you want to feel. And like you said, I listen to music and audio as well, because it's very powerful how you can set yourself up in the morning and you're just listening to this good stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, it does. It frames my day. It kind of sets me up for the whole day when I, listen to certain things, and certain people.
I agree.
And in terms of any other tips or tricks for people, anything else that you want to give us?
Well, I've got a lot. So I guess once you're doing what you know what you want, and once you're taking responsibility and just what we were just talking about, you then start actually setting some healthy boundaries into your life, which is based on what is important. And this will, frame your health, your relationships, your personal and professional growth. So I think the other important part is to keep focusing on what you want, and not what you don't want. Keep focusing on your gains and your wins and your goals, because again, what we were just talking about, how the brain is wiring themselves. The more we actually focus on the good stuff, the more we're wiring our brain to think that way, but the more we also energetically attract more of that stuff that we need to support us on the journey. So again, I love that saying, where your focus goes, energy flows. And it really is that way. So you can always reshift your attention, because sometimes you get caught up in something, and then self-awareness again can help you to just shift that attention to where it needs to go.
Love it. I'm sure there are plenty of great strategies you can give us. But tell us a bit more about how you work. How do you actually work? Do you have a particular niche group of people that you work with? How does your day look like?
Look, I mean, I love working with women currently, and so my services are sort of focused on empowering women to get clear and confident. And the best way to work with me is one-on-one. I've got a 12 weeks empowerment journey, but I'm also right now in the middle of launching a 4 weeks group coaching program, which can be joined anytime. It's online, and it's called the Confidence Queendom. So it's all about building a queen mindset, so to say. And I just found with female clients that have worked, a lot of it starts with self-worth, self-love, self-confidence, and reconnecting to yourself. And so that is a great way to start your personal development journey as well, with just, a bit of a shift, getting you on the path of then taking more aligned steps and more confident steps. So that's the sort of the one-on-one in the group. And I do have a masterclass. This is more for, if you just want to do something in your own time over a few hours.
Oh, great. And is that already kind of pre-recorded, is it? The masterclass?
Yeah, it's called Limitless. I recorded that during COVID.
Great.
And it's all about how to step into your limitless potential.
Awesome. And have you, I'd love to hear a case study or an example. Have you got any examples, or maybe just if you want to talk generally about how some of the people have really made incredible steps and have achieved incredible results during your programs?
Yeah, sure. So I guess finding more clarity and becoming more confident. I had a client that was overseas, and she was about to make some big life change decisions, and she was drawn into two directions, and she was really afraid of making the wrong decision. And also, as many people, they just wanted to know what will happen and what will happen if this goes wrong. And so I helped to reconnect to her inner guidance system as well, to understand that she actually has all the answers within herself, but that she just needs to trust a little bit more to understand, to evaluate the different options. And so we did a bit of mindset training as well, of course, and, talked about the concept of what's actually in your control and what is not, and to learn to enjoy the journey of your life path, and that you are sort of guided on the way as well, to sort of follow the good feeling. And it was just really cool, because I did get a phone call, and she's like, I've just made the decision. I woke up and I really knew what to do, and I feel great. And so, just helping really with giving that empower, or stepping back into that power that everyone has themselves to make no one needs to ask another person. The other person will not know what the right thing is for another person. Yep. Everyone has that within themselves. So
it's really like your job is really to just open up that thought pattern and open up the awareness to the universe. And they will kind of wake up and say, okay, that's what I need to do.
Yeah, look, I work with sort of a principle that's called the brain-heart coherence. So creating more mental clarity really helps us to let go of the stuff that's just noise and distraction. And that's also other people's voices, other people's expectations. And so through creating mental clarity, we then can reconnect more to our heart center. And it's also called the heart brain. Again, it's showing that there is more, so there's obviously a connection, neurons also from your heart to your brain. And there's actually more direction going up to the brain than the other way around, which is quite interesting. So we do have quite, I believe within the heart center is where the real answers also are stuck, but we just so don't trust our intuition anymore. And because we're very distracted by our external world, we don't know how to ground ourselves and to connect to that piece, and to trust, because obviously it's like the loud voice versus the really silent.
And I've heard that before as well. I think there are 3 brain centers, is that right? The heart, the brain, and the gut. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so is the heart center, you would say, the most, what's the word? The heart center is the most true in a way. Most
Yeah,
authentic.
I would say that's where your passion purpose comes into play. That feeling where we often, we really want something or we feel excited about something, but then our mind tries to tell us out of it.
Yeah.
And then the logic kicks in and all the reasons why you shouldn't be doing something. So that's why you have to also learn to manage your mind, because obviously there's always a little bit of that interaction. And the gut has a lot of neurons. I mean, that's the saying that it comes from the gut feeling. But really, it's so important what you eat, because it feeds also your cognitive health. So it's very important if you can get a bit healthier with your intake on food. That will help your brain functionality too.
It's quite amazing when you think about it. Like the more you dive into this side of things, it's like a whole new roadmap.
It is. Everything's connected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Quite amazing. Wow. Awesome. Well, Martina, that was amazing. I really appreciate you, really going into that detail for us.
Yeah, no worries.
If
fun.
people want to find you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, of course. So my website, martinarios.com, is sort of the first point of contact. You can also do a really fun mindset quiz there that assesses sort of where you're at on the growth mindset barometer. You can book a call with me. There's also an option to do a bit of a live check-in coaching call to see how you're tracking in life on the well-being and happiness barometer. And ultimately, all my services are there too. So when it comes to socials, I am most active on Instagram.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
So not as much Facebook or LinkedIn.
It's just got a bit noisy, so I try to focus just on one, but I still check in for sure.
I'll make sure that I put all your handles to, all your social handles as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you can find them on your website, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. That is awesome. Well, Martina, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I really enjoyed that. I love diving into these kind of topics. And I suppose to kind of go right back to the beginning, that the title is an interesting paradox, but to me, it's more about, of course, action is important, but you need action with the right intention and action with the right preparation and action with the right reflection and strategy. It's not about just taking action for action's sake, because you won't change direction.
Yeah. That's it.
I love it. Well done. Awesome. Anything else you want to leave us with before we finish up?
There'd be so much I could talk about, but I don't want to overwhelm anyone. So
awesome.
All good.
Well, everybody make sure that you go to Martina's website. There'll be lots of great stuff there, all her social handles, and you'll be able to do all those great quizzes and tests and get access to all her programs and all her new stuff that she's doing. So, lots of stuff happening with Martina. So Martina, thanks again. I really appreciate it. Everybody out there, have you had a great show? Have you have a great day? And we'll see you very, very soon for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. Bye for now. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. If you would like to join me as a guest on the show, I would be delighted to collaborate. Feel free to buzz me on 0414 659 800 or email me on darren@suspendedanimation.com.au. I'm always on the lookout for great guests who can share their stories and expertise with my community. Also, if you have been thinking about putting your own podcast together and not sure where to begin, look no further. I run a really simple 3-part podcasting course, one-on-one with me, where I walk you through the entire podcasting journey. You will end up with a fantastic new podcast to start sharing right away. Feel free to get in touch to discuss further. But for now, though, have a fantastic day, and I'll see you next time.